This is the complete new player's guide to Lost Ark. So if you've never played Lost Ark before, or maybe you just played it a little bit and now you're returning back, this is the video for you. We're gonna keep it simple enough so that you can understand all of the systems that are in place in Lost Ark, but not so detailed that you get completely lost in the sauce. Let's start it at the very beginning when picking a server. So you're gonna see this screen and there's a ton of different servers on here that you can choose from. And if I were you, I would go ahead and choose Xena if you're on North America East. I can't really comment on any of the other regions, but if you're on NA East, I would go for Xena just because I do have a roster on this server. And there's still a lot of people in the server, so when you're doing the world events, you will have plenty of other people participating, and it adds a lot of fun in that way, as opposed to, for example, my primary roster is on Zosma, and there's not as many people on Zosma, so I don't even do some of the world events anymore because there's just not even enough people that are doing them. But once you choose your server, you're going to go ahead and click that server and hit enter. Now you have to create your character. This is maybe the most important part of this whole game. No, really, you are likely going to have many different characters at different points of your Lost Ark journey, and there are so many cool choices to choose from. Some of my favorites are the Gunslinger, which is the gunner in a female form, the Assassin, that is the Deathblade variant. Another really fun one is, for me, my main, so to speak, is a Glavier, which is a female martial artist, and another fan favorite is the Sorceress. But all of these classes are so much fun. So do yourself a favor, look around at some other videos if you're curious about this class. If it looks intriguing, go for it. If it looks like you have fun playing it, then go for it and play it. There are no bad classes in Lost Ark. They are all fun, they are all viable, and they all have different options as far as how you build them and play them, which is part of the beauty of Lost Ark. After you make your character, that's when you're gonna start your journey. So you have a choice to either skip the prologue or play through it. Either way, it doesn't really matter. You're not gonna miss anything by skipping the prologue. So it's totally up to you. But then after that, your main objective is playing through the entire story. I enjoyed the lore of it. I enjoyed the storyline. There are a ton of side quests along the way, so you can absolutely do them if you'd like, or you can opt to skip them and just stick to the main storyline. But playing through the story will give you a lot of experience in the systems of Lost Ark, like your skills and how you level those up and choose different options for each skill and things of that sort. So that'll give you a good opportunity to familiarize yourself with some of those. Once you finish the story and you end up in North Vern, you are going to have a free power pass. Now this is a really good time to go ahead and use on another character. So what this power pass is going to do is it's going to allow you to totally skip through all the story and bring up a second character to the exact same spot that your first character is now at. Now, I will get into the benefits of having more than one character a little bit later in this video, but this is a very good thing. And I'm sure that there's more than one class that you really want to try out and play. So this is a great opportunity to exercise that option. When you are finished with the story, you will be introduced to your daily activities, so to speak. And these will include your daily Una tasks, which are quick tasks that will generally give you rewards each day that are going to help you along your journey and leveling up your gear. Now, there are other rewards, but I don't want to really get into that too much because you will typically be doing the ones that give you leap stones. Leap stones are a big part of your gear progression. So these are typically the ones that you will be doing each day, and they're quick little tasks. You will also be introduced to the Chaos Dungeons and Guardian Raids. These are also short little 4 to 5 minute activities that you can do or will likely be doing each day. From this point on, you will continually get gear that you raise to a certain eye level, and then you move to the next tier and you get a new set of gear, and then you raise that up, and then you will go to the next tier, and then you will get a new armor set, and then you will go and you will raise that up through honing. Now, Lost Ark has a very unique system in place for these daily activities. So you can see this rest bonus up here, and I'm at 0 out of 100 because I have not rested. But this feature is really awesome because what it allows you to do is, so let's say you don't do any daily activities for that one day. Well, guess what? The next day when you come back, you're going to have 1 rest bonus. And when you do, let's say, for example, we're just doing chaos dungeons, you do 1 chaos dungeon, then it is going to use that rest bonus. It's actually going to give you double the rewards, which is really, really nice. And all in all, if you only do these activities with rest bonus, then at the end of the week, you're basically going to be getting about 66 to 75% of the rewards, but you're only spending half of the time doing that. So it is very much more efficient when you're talking about your total time consumption. But if you're looking to get the absolute most materials the quickest, then you're going to be doing these each and every day. This is also where you get introduced to your weekly activities. So your weekly activities at the beginning of where you are now are pretty much only going to include your Abyssal dungeons. Now, these are really cool activities where you go through, you have multiple bosses, you have some mobs. It's a really nice activity. You get some gold, which I do not get this gold anymore because I'm too high of an eye level. But at your eye level, you will get gold, you will get better accessories, you will get better gear. So of course you'll be wanting to do these each week, and you can only do them once per week, which is why they are the weekly activities. Now, whenever you eventually get to 460 item level, then you will also be able to do these challenge weekly activities, which is the challenge Abyssal dungeon and the challenge Guardian raid, which these will give you even better rewards for your honing, a chance at really good cards, which I will get into in just a bit because cards are important, but not so much where you're at right at this stage, and just a bunch of other goodies. And you will definitely want to get these done each week. But the good news is that you can just party up. You can go to matchmaking. Of course, I can't do that. And you'll be automatically partied with other people that will help you through those Abyssal dungeons and Guardian raids. Another thing that you're going to get introduced to at this point is the engraving system. So your engravings are like extra skills that you'll have or extra bonuses that you'll have. And just for example, don't look too much into these right now, but for example, if we look at my engraving menu and I go to class bonus, each class has 2 different engravings that are class engravings that will really determine how that class plays, and typically they are 2 pretty different options. Generally, you are always going to be having a class engraving with whatever build that you make going into the end game. But for tier 1, tier 2, and early tier 3, you don't have to worry too much about your engravings because you can't do a whole lot with them, as you're very limited by your accessories and your rock. Which brings me to my next point, is how do you even get these engravings? At this point where I'm at with this character, I'm much later into the game than you are. It's going to allow me to have 5 engravings. But where you're at right now, you're doing very good if you just have 1 engraving fully maxed out, especially if you have 2. That'd be really, really good. However, you don't really need to worry about that at this point. What you do need to understand though is how these engravings work. Where do you get all of these nodes from? You get them all from your accessories and your rock, which I'll get into the rock in just a second. So your accessories provide the bulk of these engraving nodes, because every accessory that's going to drop throughout your journey is going to have different nodes on them. It's going to have different engravings on them. So typically you are going to buy your accessories from the auction house. That way you can make it fit perfectly in the build that you want, just like I have mine. So aside from the accessories though, I said that you can get a rock as well. And this is a huge RNG part of this game, I'm not gonna lie. In tier 1 and tier 2, you don't really have to worry about this much because you are going to be honing your gear and advancing very, very quickly because of all of the honing buffs that you now have in these lower tiers. So don't worry too much about this, but you just need to understand the concept and what needs to take place for this to happen. So you will get your stone, right? And you will come over to the ability stone cutter. And this is what it will look like. It won't look exactly like this until you get up to a certain eye level and you can buy more high level stones that have more nodes available for you to be successful with. This is how it will work. You start out at 75% success rate. And what you want to do is to hone on these two skills, right? Because these are your two positive engravings that you want. You want Magic Stream and Grudge, or in this example, typically Magic Stream is a not very good engraving, so you're really never going to use this. But just for this example, these are the two you want. This reduced abilities, this is not what you want, okay? So in order to cut a good stone, you're going to need a little bit of luck. But in general, let's just start honing this. And as you can see, this one succeeded. So the success rate for the next one goes down. So let's see what happens. So it failed. So it goes up 10%. So boom. Okay, I succeeded, went down. Now we just succeeded, back down to 55%. And we succeeded again. Now we're at 45%. This is where you want to be using the negative abilities. So you have a 45% chance of success, right? We don't want that. We want to use it there, right? The odds are in our favor to fail this node. We want to fail as many of these as possible and and succeed as many of these as possible. And the last part of you having your engraving setup is going to be your books. So you can see these two nodes right here. And if you see, it says you can equip an engraving on the engraving effects window. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the engraving effects window. And as you can see, I have many different engravings, some of which say plus 12 nodes, some say plus 9 nodes, and some that say plus 6 nodes, and even one that says plus 3. The way you level up these engravings is that you read enough books from each rarity level, and by doing so you up your knowledge of that engraving, and then you get more nodes. So whenever you read 20 books of the green book, then you will get access to, when you equip that onto your character, onto this node, you will get plus 3 nodes. When you read 20 blue books, you will now be able to have access to 6 nodes. When you read 20 purple books, you will now be able to get 9 nodes. The golden books, the legendary rarity, when you read 20 of those, you will now get access to having 12 nodes. And just real quick so you can see, this esoteric flurry skill only has 3 nodes because I have a necklace that gives it plus 3, and that's the only thing I have in my accessories or my rock, my stone, that gives to this particular engraving. So I have 3 nodes here. Now I'm going to equip this engraving to that extra slot here. And now, boom, see, now I have it all the way. I have all 15 nodes, so I have a level 3. And one final statement I wanted to make about these engraving books is that you have to read them in order. So you have to read 20 green ones before you can go to the blue level. And then so you'll read 20 green ones, then you'll read 20 blue ones, then you'll have to read 20 purple, and then 20 legendary and 20 gold. So you can't just immediately read 20 gold ones right off the rip. You have to go in order and read the green ones, then the blue ones, then the purple ones, then the gold ones. In general, as you continue to progress through the different tiers, you will have more access to better accessories that have more options in terms of their engraving effects and how many nodes that you can get for that set accessory. You will eventually get to the point where you're seeing accessories that look like mine, which are relic level accessories that you can have a plus 5 random engraving effect and a plus 3 random engraving effect on one accessory. And that is how you eventually have a setup like mine that is referred to as a 5x3 because there's 5 engravings all at level 3. Now, once you do indeed get to tier 3 and you start leveling up and let's say you get all the way to 1370, this is when you are truly going to start experiencing some in-game activities like Argos. This is your first raid, so to speak, and you have to go through 3 gates. As you can see, there's 3 different gates here to completely beat this raid. And every raid, whether it's the Abyss raid or Legion raids, can only be done once per week. At this point, when you hit 1370, the big thing about this is that you are going to be able to start getting accessories that look like this. And with these legendary tier 3 accessories, you can now build your first 3x3 engraving or a 4x3 engraving set, depending on a couple of other factors like what level your engraving book level is at for these 2 nodes and what your accessories exactly look like. But you can build a 4x3 just with these legendary accessories that you get from the Argos raid. Now let's talk about tripods a little bit. So tripods are in every single skill in the game. And as you can see, as you level your skills up, you unlock more tripods. So let me take this to level 10 and I unlocked this one as well. Okay, so as you unlock more skill points, as you level up, as you get more skill point potions, everything like that, you get more access to having higher level skills. And in doing so, you can activate more tripods on them. For most tripods, they can go up from level 1 to level 5. They can level up gradually. And the way that that happens is you do chaos dungeons and you get little amulets that drop. When these amulets drop, it comes with, for example, maybe a level 2 chance. Then you can go over to this NPC, which is the transfer skill tree NPC, and try your luck in getting that tripod level up. Now for level 2, you have a 100% chance of getting it leveled up, which is really good because that's easy peasy, instant power. Now at level 3, it's 50%. At level 4, it's 25%. And at level 5, I believe it's 10%. Now there is an item called the Powder of Sage. Now what this does is it doubles that chance. So now at level 3, you can have a 100% chance at getting that tripod leveled up. At level 4, you will have a 50% chance, and at level 5, you will have a 20% chance of leveling up that tripod to that particular level. The higher eye level you go, the better chance you'll get of those higher level tripod drops in the Chaos Dungeons. But you can also buy them in the auction house. Now, I would not recommend you spend your gold or your peons on that. Peons are another currency in Lost Ark. I don't want to get into it too much, but for each accessory that you buy, or bracelet, or rock, or amulets that look like this, as you can see, if I want to buy this one, for example, it has one of the skills that I need at level 5, esoteric skill, blast formation, weak point detection, the middle one, level 5, right? So I might want to buy that and try to land that. So it costs 7 peons and I only have 37, so I don't necessarily want to buy that because the difference between level 4 and level 5 on that skill, on that one tripod, is not that much. And so for me, it's not quite as important, as I will gradually collect more and more of these the more chaos dungeons I do, and you will gradually level that up. So especially as a new player, you don't want to be spending gold on that, but that's how you level up your tripods. And this is the single greatest way to level up in terms of damage for your character, is the tripods. Yes, you might have to buy a couple of level 5 ones because they're just not dropping for you, or maybe you're just having a lot of poor luck when you're trying to have them succeed in actually unlocking them with the vendor, but you won't have to buy too many, so I wouldn't be too worried about this. You will gradually get them as you play. Now at this point in the game, you are going to be much more familiar with gems, tripods, engravings, card sets, all those kinds of things. So from now on in the video, I'm going to be referring to these in a little bit more advanced terms because I'm assuming that you're already at this stage. But if you're not at this stage, it's still definitely a good idea to continue watching because you are going to learn a lot of tips and tricks that I wish I would have known and how to be efficient and what typical parties are going to expect from you in terms of item level, gearing, all those kinds of things, because I want to make sure that you are spending your gold to the best of your ability in the most efficient way, because you're not going to be getting a ton of it at this point, especially if you don't have a lot of alts and maybe you're just playing 1 or 2 characters. So you definitely want to be playing as efficiently as possible. So from now on, I'm just going to be going over how I would recommend to play if you're trying to be very efficient in that manner. But guys, if you have liked the video so far, if you learned anything, or you're thinking, hey, maybe I do want to play this game, this looks pretty fun, then go ahead, give me a like on this video, and I would appreciate it so much. It's free and it helps me out so dang much. One of my biggest goals is to reach 2,500 subscribers by the end of the year, which I think we're on track to do that. So if you want to also subscribe to my channel, then you can absolutely do that as well. But let's go ahead and get on with the rest of the video. One of the biggest pieces of advice that I could give you is to definitely be doing horizontal content at the same time that you are leveling through your first 3 tiers in this game. Now, the reason I say that you need to do the horizontal content is because a lot of that horizontal content is going to help push you into doing more damage in your vertical progression. So things like collecting enough Giant's Hearts or collecting enough Island Souls are going to give these rewards like skill point potions. And you can see here, and another one here, and another one here. These are going to allow you to have more skill points so that you can raise these numbers on your skills even higher and unlock more tripod options so that your skills can do more damage or have more utility. Luckily for you, maxroll.gg has excellent guides step by step to do exactly that. So for example, you are going to want to get 20 Island Souls to get this first greater skill potion here, which is going to give you 6 skill points. And it's also going to have a guide on how to get these Giant's Hearts as well, as quickly and easily as possible, so that you can capitalize on getting as many skill point potions. And of course, there's a couple other things that will help boost you vertically as quickly as possible. And the reason I say that you should do these between tier 1 and tier 3 if possible is because you're going to have a little bit more time with your horizontal content grind, so to speak, than whenever you start progressing past 1370 and you're trying to do raids, you're trying to do your dailies every day. You just have a lot more stuff to do in the game, which is a good thing. It's a lot more fun when you're playing your characters that way and you have more activities to do, but you'll just gradually have less time for horizontal content the higher you go vertically or the more characters that you make. Another thing that I would recommend you do to level up as quickly as possible is to start sailing, baby. There are tons of islands in the land of Arkesia. As you can see, there's a lot of little islands everywhere. And I know it can be a little bit overwhelming at first because there's so darn many, but don't worry, don't get overwhelmed. There are certain islands that will give you rewards, and those rewards are typically going to be for honing, for completing the missions on those islands. And also, Maxroll has a very good guide at how to sail efficiently and make the most out of all of the islands that are necessary to hone as quickly as possible and level up and get to tier 3 very, very fast. Which of course I'm going to include all the links to those Maxroll guides in the description below. Another huge form of getting honing materials that will help you progress very quickly is by doing the tower, which is this thing, this tower right here. So as you can see here, we're getting a lot of different honing materials, and there is a version of the tower for tier 1, which is all these green things here, and for tier 2, which is of course all of these blue materials here. Now, something you need to understand is that the first time through on the tower, you are not going to get all of these honing rewards. You are going to be getting other rewards like engraving book packs, card sets, Giant's Hearts, skill potions, all kinds of things like that. Now, after that first time through on each one of these towers for tier 1 and tier 2, every character after that will be getting these honing materials. So just make sure to keep that in mind. As I mentioned earlier, as you progress through tier 3 and you continue rising, 1370 is when you get your first raid, which is Argos. But as you continually level up, you are going to also continually unlock new raids. So the next raid that you are going to unlock is Vaultin. As you can see, this demon beast cow looking bull looking thing, I don't even know what he is. But anyways, you are going to unlock him as a Legion raid. And the significant thing about Legion raids is that they are going to give you materials to craft better gear. So this is something that is very important to this game. To be honest, Legion raids are really the biggest thing that I enjoy in this game. And if there weren't Legion raids, I likely wouldn't even be playing it, because that is the big bulk of in-game content that you're going to be doing each week, and how you continually progress as quickly as possible. It's pretty hard to progress if you're not doing Legion raids. Actually, it's impossible at some points. But you are going to unlock Vaultin normal mode at 14:15, and you can do both gates here. And then you are going to unlock Vaultin hard at 14:45. Now between 14:15 and 14:45, you are also going to unlock normal mode Vicus. This is another Legion raid, and you are going to unlock this raid at 14:30, which is of course very cool, because going from 14:15 to 14:30, it's only one hone on each piece of your gear. So that's 6 hones total. So it's very easy to get from 14:15 to 14:30. Generally doesn't take much time. So you're going to unlock these 2 Legion raids pretty quick. Now, hard mode is going to be unlocked at 14:60. Now the next Legion raid after Vicus is going to be Clown, is Cockle Sadon. Okay, and we just call him Clown though because it's just much easier. And you can do all of the gates at 14:75. The next Legion raid after that is going to be Brel Shaza normal. And as you can see, there are 6 gates with this raid. This is the most difficult raid in terms of mechanics. They are very, very heavy. Even though they've been extremely nerfed over time, it is still a very difficult raid for most people to complete all 6 gates. And because it has 6 gates, it's a much longer raid. You will unlock the first 2 gates at 14:90, the next 2 gates, gates 3 and 4, at 1500, and then the last 2 gates at 1520. Now, we don't have Brel Shaza hard coming out in April, but we will also get access to Brel Shaza hard after this. Then comes a con, which we do not have access to yet, so I can't even click on them. But the starting item level for that, for normal mode, is 1580, and I believe the hard mode con starts at 1600. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and for you to be looking forward to progressing in this game, because all of these Legion raids are very unique. They're all very fun. In my opinion, I really enjoy doing them. But with that being said, there's also different levels of progression with your engravings, your gems, your cards, your gear, all of that, that are typically going to have to be met in order for you to be getting accepted into parties regularly without much trouble. So I really want to talk about what you're going to need at each one of those different stages. So I just want to preface this with saying gatekeeping is real in this game. I get gatekept. Everybody gets gatekept for different reasons, okay? Don't be surprised when someone's looking at your profile when you're applying to a raid group that maybe they see that your roster level is kind of low, or maybe you don't have quite the right engraving setup, or maybe your card set isn't that good, for example, and you're not accepted into the lobby. That's okay. Keep trying. In terms of getting gatekept as a new player, I will suggest to get into a guild, and that way you always have someone to help you out and to run with you no matter what your eye level is. And there are tons of guilds who accept new players. There's so many, and they will help teach you the raids and be there for you to guide you along this process, and of course raid with you as well, so you don't really have to worry about trying to get into a public group, because public groups at the end of the day want the best of the best that they can find that are applying to the group. So typically they're going to take people that have higher roster levels, that have higher eye level in general, that have better gear, etc. But let's go ahead and jump into these standards, so to speak, of what you should be trying to aim for in terms of your gear progression, tripods, gems, cards, engraving setups, all those kinds of things at each stage of your item level progression through these Legion raids. When you hit 1370, immediately you should be trying to attain a 3x3 setup with your engravings. This is pretty doable for most people. It allows you to not necessarily have to have perfect engravings here on your accessories, and you don't have to have legendary engraving books here. You just have to have up to the purple books read for these engravings, so you get 9 nodes on each of these points. With that being said, many people are going to expect a 4x3 setup instead, but these are the people that are going to be very picky, and in my opinion, you should really aim for a 3x3 setup at this point when you're between 1370 to 1415. As far as your gems are concerned, between the stages of 1370 to 1445, I would really recommend you work on getting level 5 gems. Level 5 gems are not too expensive, and you get them through doing activities like your chaos dungeons and your boss rush tickets. So your boss rush tickets are things that you can attain through doing your chaos dungeons, and you'll of course go to the boss rush station, which in Punica, it's right over here. It's always going to be right next to the cube and the tower. And so you'll go into the boss rush. As a reward, you will get gems and honing stones and actually a ton of experience. So it's a very good idea to do these boss rush tickets when you can. But naturally, you will continue to progress your gems to level 5. And that's where I think a good standard is and what you should aim for after you get your 3x3 engraving setup or your 4x3 engraving setup. Now, through the eye levels of 1415 to 1460, that's when you are really going to be trying to get a 4x3 setup on your engravings. Or if you're an Ultimate Chad, then you're going to be trying to get your 5x3 engravings at this point. If you are a brand new player though, it's going to be very difficult for you to have a 5x3 engraving setup unless it's a very, very cheap setup. And that won't necessarily make you more attractive to getting accepted into a party, for example, if these 5 engravings aren't really what you need as that certain class. So I would say to aim for a really solid 4x3 setup on your engravings, and again, be striving to get level 5 gems, because even getting accepted into a Vicus hard mode, which is 1460 requirement, you are definitely going to need at least a 4x3 setup with level 5 gems, preferably. Between 1460 to 1490 is really when you need to focus on getting a 5x3 engraving setup. Now, this is typically going to include buying your legendary engraving books so that you can get them to a legendary level, because you are going to need at least 1 legendary engraving to get a 5x3 setup. It just depends on the roll on your stone and your accessories. So this is typically where you're going to be spending the most gold on this endeavor. This is also the point where you need to start getting level 7 gems. However, your 5x3 engraving setup, in my opinion, is more important to have a 5x3 setup than it is to have level 7 gems. If you have a 5x3 setup but level 5 gems, that's 100% fine. But if you have a 4x3 setup and level 7 gems, I'm probably not going to be accepting you, as many other people probably won't either, because the damage increase from having an extra damage engraving for that 5x3 setup is going to have much more of an impact than going from level 5 gems to level 7 gems. So this is really at the point that you need to start worrying about getting that proper engraving setup for the full endgame, which is a 5x3 setup and level 7 gems. Another thing that you will have to start worrying about around the time that you're 1370 or 1415 is your card set. So when we're talking about card sets, these take a long time to collect, and the card system in this game is admittedly pretty overwhelming for a new player. I did not fully understand it until I was probably a couple hundred hours into playing this game, so don't worry about it too much. You will gradually start to catch on to how these cards work and which ones you need to be using. But in general, the first card set that you're going to be looking towards as in terms of equipping is the Star of Destiny collection. So you'll equip these 5 and you will get a bonus of max HP plus 4%. You'll cast a shield for 20% of your maximum HP for 6 seconds when it goes below 30% health, that's great for, of course, your protection, staying alive. And then you'll also get an additional 3% damage. This is going to be your first card set that you will equip. The next card set that you will eventually use is the Lost Wind Cliff set. And this is because when you get to 12-piece awakening, which awakenings happen whenever you collect multiple versions of the same card, and as you collect multiple versions, you can level up that card, so to speak. So as you can see, I have 2 little golden notches here in this card, 5 golden notches in this one, 3 golden notches in that one. And that's because I've collected so many cards of this exact same Balthor card, for example. And once you get a certain amount, you can level him up. And these little golden things is your awakening number. So I have this card set with 18 awakening. It's an 18-piece awakening because I have 3 here, 5, 3, 3, 2, and 2. That's how I have the 18 set awakening bonus on this card set. Now, again, I don't want to get too far into cards because it can be a little bit overwhelming. But the second card set you're going to be trying to use is the Lost Wind Cliff set, the 12-piece awakening, which will not take super long, but it definitely will still take some time to be able to work up to get this. Now, the set after Lost Wind Cliff that you're going to be trying to attain for the ultimate in-game card set is your Light of Salvation set, this set that I have on right now. But you're going to try to get the 30-piece awakening. I'm not even there yet, and I have over 3,000 hours in this game. It is a very long process to get this full 30-piece awakening of this card set, but that is what you're going to be aiming for after Lost Wind Cliff. Now, after you get to Light of Salvation 18, that's when you're going to switch from Lost Wind Cliff to Light of Salvation. But even as I'm saying this, by the time you get to this point, you are already going to be very versed in the game and know which card sets you need to use. So I'm not going to spend too much more time on the card set. Now, this is my last subject that I'm going to talk about in this video, and that is alts. Lost Ark is a very, very alt-friendly game. For example, I have 11 different alts just on this roster, and on another server, I have an alternate roster. I have an alternate account, basically, you could think of it, with 5 more characters on that account. And that's because at the end of the day, I really enjoy this game, and I play pretty efficiently, so I'm only playing about 30 hours per week or so. And I just have a lot of fun playing different characters. The pros of having more alts is that the more alts you have, the more materials that you can gain to help boost your main character up. Now, one of the downsides of this is that you have to continuously put in materials and gold and silver and everything to your alts too to continue raising them, because once you hit different tiers, the materials change. So at that point, if your alts are too far below your main, then they can't really help your main out anymore because they're not getting the same materials when they're doing their dailies and weekly activities, things like that. So you do have to continually bring your alts up with your main. For example, this is one of my alts we just created with this new event that came out, which is super cool, but this one is 1490, so he's technically an alt. Now my main is 1550, my Glavier, but all of these other characters are my alts as well. These 1540s, my 1520, and this 1490 that I'm on right now, this Striker Boy. He's also my alt, but I have one main that I typically level up a little bit farther, and then I bring my alts up, and then I'll continually raise my main in that fashion so that they're always building more materials for my main tune. Now, you can see these 6 are very much lower than my top 6. And this is because they don't really give any materials to these top 6 tunes. Instead, they just really farm silver, and they do dailies that farm silver. But, you know, this isn't really for the new player. You're not going to have 12 tunes doing this at all. That is way more advanced into building your roster, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. But in general, having more alts is going to give you more experiences in the game, playing more characters, having more fun, building more materials, and you're able to progress quicker than just having 1 or 2 tunes. The biggest cons of having more alts is that you will for sure have to put in more time. So if you have more time, then that's fantastic. If you do not have more time, then there's always more ways to be efficient in how you're doing your dailies, your weeklies, what you're really focusing on, of course. And that is just going to vary from person to person. Now, I do have a video up on my channel about how I typically go about my daily and weekly activities now. Even sometimes I'm only playing 20 hours per week and still able to get in all my major activities. And that is for a roster of my top 6 characters that I just showed you a second ago. So it is possible to be pretty darn time efficient with this game and still have a 4, 5, or 6 player roster. And like I said, only be playing about 20 hours per week. But even at that point, you could have 2 or 3 or 4 characters and only play about 10 to 12 hours a week if that's the time constraint that you're on. So you do have to consider this when you're thinking, hey, I want to make another alt or do this or do that. Now, the great thing about Lost Ark is with every major class release, they give a huge event that you're able to boost that character up extremely quick. I was able to take this striker and level him from level 1 to 1445 within 1 day. And that puts you right in the middle of being able to do a ton of Legion raids, a ton of activities, which is very good because you don't want to have to spend all that time doing the story missions and leveling up through the tiers and all that, right? You don't want to do that. So this is a very good way to boost up your alts quickly and efficiently, is just waiting for these events to happen and just continuing to enjoy the game with your current characters in between these events. If you do not want to wait for those events and you have a little bit extra time and you want more alts, then you can also come over to your stronghold and come over to this section over here. As you can see on the map, it's at this bottom left portion. For example, I just made an artist, which is a support character on my alternate account. Now, my alternate account obviously does not have quite the same amount of characters or at the same eye level as my main account, but it's still really fun to play. And like I said, I like playing different characters, so that's why I made an alternate account. But you can also earn more gold doing this too, so that's a definite plus. But that is a video for itself entirely on its own, and I won't really be getting into it right now. But I just made this artist. I was playing through the story a little bit, but I realized I don't really want to spend a ton of time doing that. So I'm going to come over to the knowledge transfer. Boom, knowledge transfer, easy peasy, cost gold, and it takes 8 hours to complete. So in 8 hours, I will be at North Vern level, which is all the way through the main story up to tier 1. That basically sums up the video for a new player's guide into this game and how to really look at things, how to go about them in a general way. I didn't want to make this so detailed that is extremely overwhelming if maybe you haven't even played this game yet and you're just thinking about getting into it, because at the end of the day, this game is really, really fun. It has a lot of complex systems in it, but you will gradually learn them as they aren't too hard to grasp as you're continually progressing through the game. All in all, I would definitely tell you to please give this game a shot. If you like MMOs, if you like good combat, if you like raids, do yourself a favor and play this game. It is super, super fun, and it appeals to not only a super casual player, but also a hardcore player as well. So guys, if you like this video, go ahead and leave a like on it. I would really appreciate it. It's free, and then you do not understand how much it helps me out. And if you want to subscribe to this channel for more information, more videos to come, then of course you can do that as well. Like I said earlier, my biggest goal of this year is to get to 2,500 subs, and that would really help me out with that goal. But if you have any other questions, maybe you've just started to play this game and I didn't answer one directly, maybe a question that you did have, go ahead and ask it in the comments. I'm going to respond to every single comment and help you out as much as I possibly can. So please feel free to ask any question that you would like, and I would love to help you out. But guys, I'm going to see you on the next video.